We are on our way to Peterborough because we've been invited down by DuraPost to come and check out their fencing system. We've all seen fencing, but this whole system is completely unique and it has a lot of advantages. So let's get on the road and go and meet up with DuraPost. So after a short drive, we arrived at the job, late of course, said our hellos to everyone and got straight on with the work. Basically what he's doing is he's pulling a string where the fence is going to go, so as you look down this fence line it's going to be perfectly straight, and that string line is going from the very start of this fence all the way to the very end. It's quite a long walk, wasn't it? So now our line was in position and we knew where our fence was going. It was time to start marking out for the posts. So once they were marked, the guys from Webwood who were helping us out on this DuraPost install started to dig the holes for the posts. So these holes, I believe, were 600mm deep, and then we marked one of the posts ready to go in the hole. So what you've just seen happening is this getting knocked down. So these holes were actually slightly shallow. Reason being, the difference between this and your typical concrete post is you can chuck some dirt in and lift that up if you're too low, whereas this, it's easier to send it down into a little bit of dirt, and it's going to save you time, plus he can now let go of that. So Matt and Liam only was digging 2 of the holes at a time. The reason being, they said when you're marking out it's easy to veer off. So once we had 2 marked out and 2 posts ready to go, we got ourselves some bags of postcrete and started to install them. So you pour water into the holes first and then you fill them holes up with 2 bags of postcrete, always checking that your posts are level. On these panels here, so you've got the groove and then you've got the tongue. That tongue must be at the top, because if it's up the other way then water's going to track down inside and then it can freeze and... Now you've heard my best impression of an explosion, we can carry on installing these posts, remembering to fill them up with the water first and then add that postcrete in after, always stirring it, making sure it's fully mixed all the way down. So Matt and Liam were cracking on with this super quick. We tried to avoid them because they was pretty much like a well-oiled machine. As much as we wanted to help, I think in the end we was just getting in the way.
Right, I've been trusted to dig my first hole, and I just started throwing the dirt to one side and there's a bucket right there.
All the posts for this run are in. We are actually returning it there. We're going to be showing you some other bits and pieces they're installing. So what they're doing now, they're just backfilling a little bit with some dirt, and then we can put the stones back over the holes because the postcrete is now gone off, and then it's time to start slotting in the sections that are going to make up this fence. And then Liam said we better give these a wipe over because you don't want that concrete setting on your posts.
So now's the time for the exciting part. Now all the hard work's been done by me, not Liam or Matt. Just saying. Anyways, so the first job is to install the U-channel on the floor, and then we're going to start slotting the panels. It's going to go really nice and quick now. Let's do it.
Now that Brad's finished his amazing excitement face, the boys just started smashing through it again. Right, if you come over here quickly, while Brad said chucking channels in, there's quite an important little feature about this. The bottom channel out of the 2 has got these little slots in the bottom, and what that's going to allow is any rainwater that hits the fence and goes into that channel, it can escape. So if you put the wrong one in, it's going to collect that water and then it'll cause a problem later on down the line. So one of the big advantages of this fencing system is the weight of everything. It can all be managed so much easier than it normally would with your typical fencing system. So the way they're assembling this is they're getting the composite panels, so the sections, and then they're sliding them all into position. They're not worried about the height. So if you come over here, you'll see that it's just all over the place at the minute, but it's not important because we just need to get them into the channels, and then once they're all in, we're going to show you how we get it all exactly straight. And now that they've got all their sections in, they go and put this top row on. So that's the same as the bottom one, except it's missing these little slots. So rather than being slotted, it's just a solid piece, because obviously we don't want to let rain in through the top. So we've got all of our full bays in. This one you may notice is slightly narrower, but that's no big deal. We've cut our channels down using an angle grinder, and to cut the actual composite itself, all we do is we mark out our length, which is the gap between inside the posts. And then I'm just marking it with a pencil. And then to cut it, there's no special tools. We can just use our normal wood blade. So that's just a standard wood blade. Make sure you put your goggles on, because I always forget. And then what you do is you lose the mark you've just made. And then you mark it again, because that's best. And the good thing about this saw, so these 305s, they will cut up to 300 mil, so we can cut this in one go. And one more thing, when I've measured this, the way this system's designed is they're designed to flex slightly. So you need to measure it at the bottom rather than measuring it at the top, because it might give you a false reading. So I'm going to get on with putting these in, and I'll see you in a minute. And when I was just talking about that flexing, now you'll see. So rather than trying to lift it up and get it over, the good thing is you can just flex these ever so slightly. So they're just going as high as they can, and then they can flex them in. It's not going to cause any damage, and we can get it in a lot easier than trying to hold a panel 6 foot up in the air. So with these caps, they've installed all of the caps on the left hand side, and then they're going underneath. So the last one, I'll show you how they work. So if you look at this, it says front of post. The front is the opposite to the side with the holes, and all these do is they slide over this eye section, and then you just want to get it flush with the top of that post, because all of our posts are level. And then you just screw up these 2 Phillips screws, and then there's 2 in the opposite side. This fence might make me look short, but I'm actually 9 foot and this is an 11-foot fence. So now that it's all been installed, we're going to come along, and then they're lifting the panels up, and then using some black screws, we're just screwing through these pre-drilled holes to hold each individual panel. So we're not trying to pick the whole lot up at once. It's just one section at a time. And then as we get to that bottom rail, we're going to be using some tech screws, which are like self-drilling screws, and screwing into that bottom rail, and then that's that panel complete. So the lads went through picking each section up and then just adding a screw at each side of each section until they reached that bottom rail. That then received self-drilling or tech screws that drill through the metal. So on these posts, there's a finish side, and then we've got the side with the holes in it where we can fix our panels. So you can leave it like this, and you can have this on your side, and then you can install your caps. But what we're also going to show you is you can get some cover strips for this and how they fix on. So we need to remove these back off. So if you weren't doing this, you leave them on, but we're going to be removing them to show you another little addition that you could put on these posts.
Now it's time to install the cover strips, and how you do that, we install these little brackets, 4 of, on the fence. And what Liam's told me is that you don't want to over screw it, because you can split the board. So we're installing 4 of these, 1 at the bottom, 1 near the top. How low are we coming down? Probably 100 mil from the top. 100 mil, 6 inches. And then we're going to stagger them. Scratch that. Phil just told me 4 inches is 100 mil. Damn maths. Right, anyways, we install 4 of these, and then we're going to slip the cover strip straight down.
So Liam got all the clips installed, no thanks to Brad and his bad measurements. And then all you do is you slide the cover over those clips, and that's what locks it into position and gives you that lovely finish on the second face of these posts.
Now that the cover strips are installed, you put your inserts back on and install the pretty little hat. Top cap. And you just got to push the button either side and clip it in. It's that simple.
So Matt and Liam have run the main run of fencing in, but now we're going to be coming across, and we're going to be having a gate in this little section here. So they're installing 70mm posts rather than the little I-beam looking ones we've been installing. These are 70mm posts, and then we're going to install our gate onto that. So we're going to let them put the posts in, and then we'll show you exactly how they install the gate. Because these posts were taller, the guys actually put 3 bags of postcrete in there as well, always checking for plumb. And then what we did was mark out the width of our gate, which was a 900 gate. So we did a 920mm opening and installed the second post ready to receive our gate when we install it. Same process, filling those holes up with water, and then in goes the postcrete, always mixing and always checking for plumb. So once Matt and Liam had got them 2 posts set, it was time to move on to the 2 bays of taller fencing that was going next to the gate. Right. So something a little bit different about this small section of fencing, because we've got posts, because obviously we've got the gate going in.
So if they're having a gate in it, Phil,
yeah, so if you're having a gate, this is where you're going to want to know this. So these 70mm posts, you'll note it hasn't got that little channel in between, but we use this U channel. When I say we, I mean Matt, and then he fixes it using tech screws into the side here, and that's what's going to take all of our composite panels. So Matt and Liam got on with installing that channel and then cracked on with putting the rest of those panels into that taller fence. And I want to say a massive shout out to these 2, because it isn't easy being filmed and trying to do your job, especially with someone like Brad around. So this bit of fencing is done, exactly the same as this one, except those little channels that I showed you. And now it's time for the exciting gate. So this gate comes pre-assembled. It's a 900 gate, and I believe it is 1.760 or 50, but your standard height gate basically. And what it comes with is some hinges and a lock and a handle. So the first thing we're going to be installing on our gate, now that we've decided that we want it to open up into our fence, is the hinges. So what we do, we line them up with the top rail and the bottom rail, and then using the provided pilot bit, we're going to pilot the 4 holes and then put in our fixings. Once those pilot holes were done, it was time to use the fixings provided to fix them onto our gate. So the hardware that comes with this is super durable. You can tell it's well built. So we installed these, and it was time to attach it to our post. So using a level, we marked it up and measured where we wanted our gate to sit, remembering you always want a gap on the floor and you always want a gap on the top. So they've installed the hinges on the bottom rail and top rail. Now what we're going to do is bring the gate round, hold it into position, and then we could screw directly into this 70mm post, and that should be the gate hung. And then we're going to do a little bit of adjustment, which I'll show you in 2 seconds. What's Brad doing behind me? Idiot. So using those marks we'd put on the gate, well, the post, and I'd actually done something. I actually got to mark something, so it felt good to do a bit of work for once. The boys held the gate up to those lines, and then using the tech screws that are provided, screwed into that metal post. So there was 2 screws on each hinge on one side, and then you open up that gate, and then there's a further 2 screws in each hinge. So the gate is hung, so we've screwed it into the post, it's screwed into the gate itself. So on the back, we've got these 2 bolts on the 2 hinges. So you've got a set there and a set there. And what that's going to allow us to do is, 1, move the gate left and right so we can get these margins the same. And another thing it's going to allow us to do is actually tilt the gate in and out so that we can be parallel on both sides. So we've got a really tight gap here and a big gap down there. So we're just going to use a little spanner and adjust our gate to get the 2 sides exactly the same. Right, so we've adjusted our margins and we're now happy with the gaps. On this particular fence, we're going to have a small section coming across the top. You wouldn't necessarily have that, but this one has because it's a taller fence. So we're going to get that installed, and then we're going to show you how we put the locks on that come with this kit. So the small piece of fencing that's going above the gate was just a case of installing 2 pieces of that U channel on each side, measuring the width that we wanted our piece of panelling, and then just slotting it down into position. And then we used a slotted piece on the bottom and a solid piece on the top, just as we did on the fence itself. And after all of that, they can install some tech screws, which are those self-drilling metal screws, into the top channel and the bottom channel, and a couple of standard screws into the composite itself. So it's now time to install our lock. So with the lock that we've got, so I won't show you all of it yet, I'll just show you the template that comes in the kit. We need to mark where the rail is on our gate. So I've just marked it here, and then using our template, we stick that where our rail is. So I've got a straight line all the way around this post, and we're just going to mark all of the holes in our template, ready to be piloted and also drilled. So now we've got all our piloted holes, but the 2 centre marks on each side, on the 2 sides, on the outside and inside, so not these. So there's 2 inners. They're going to be going through with the stepper bit for that. We need a bigger hole, and it'll all make sense when I show you the lot. So we'll just send this bit through that they sent out with the kit. So that's all our holes drilled and all our pilots done. Now we can move on to these plastic sleeves that are in our kit. So these are basically going to go through those holes and get cut flush with our post. And what that does is give protection to the bars that are going to feed through in about 33 seconds. So the lock itself is 2 parts. We've got the latch that goes on the inside, so wherever your gate opens into, and then we've also got this little push button and another lock that's going to feed inside. But before we do that part, we need to cut these bars down because they're designed for multiple thicknesses of fence and gate. So we're going to go back to the paper that's supplied, and then we're going to cut to whatever mark it tells us. With them bars cut, it was time to slide our first piece of the lock into position and then screw it into that post using the screws supplied. 3 on the inside of it, and then it's got 2 slightly different screws on the outside. Once that was on to the inside latch, and it's the same process, 3 screws and then 2 on the face. With those installed, it's time to put the bar onto the gate and give it a little test.
Oh, that shot's a treat.
Well, Brad's happy, so we can move on to the handle. So with the handle, it comes with self-tapping screws, so you put it into position that you want it, and then we send those self-tapping screws into position before moving on to the metal stops that were supplied with the gate. So these literally just get screwed to the post and stop that gate from over opening. That's it, we are complete. The gate is in, the fences are done. I want to say a thanks to Liam and Matt for doing practically nothing for this whole job. No, I'm only joking. Of course they've done 99% of the work.
Just remember, guys, like, subscribe and comment to our channel. Love you, bye.
Again, where's he going?